Stop detailing so much. What do I mean by that? Stop worrying about the details. Stop being fixated on details. Stop being, stop focusing so much on the how things are supposed to happen, how you expect them to happen. Just worry about the end result. I mean, it's different, right? You have some people online talk about, well, a lot of people, they talk about, well, some will say it takes inspired action to make something happen. And others will come in and say, well, no, it can just happen, or it will just happen, like magic. And they debate it back and forth, when in reality they're both correct. It happens in a myriad of ways, right? And you don't get to pick or choose necessarily how it's going to happen. And it is whatever you want, whatever your end result is, right? So I'll give you, one example might be, you hit the lottery, or I'll give you an example from my life, right? Lottery is like so generic and vague at the same time. Um, as part of my job, I am in a very rare these days white collar union. So we get collective bargaining. Now, I had no idea any of this stuff was up, but I was focusing here and there on, a pay raise, some more money coming into my experience. But I had no conscious concept of what was going on. All of a sudden, the news comes out that they reached a deal. I didn't even know they were dealing. I just knew that we were working without an active contract for a few years. And all of a sudden, they announced this 5-year deal where we're getting uh, like 3% every year for 4 years, and then on the fifth year, it's a 3.25%. And we're getting retroactive pay. So on top of getting the raise for the first year, we got retroactive pay for all the time that went between the contract, right? So I didn't have to lift a finger for that abundance to come into my experience. It just happened. I wasn't even thinking about anything with the how. I wasn't saying, oh, I hope they reach a. I didn't even know they were negotiating for a contract. I didn't even know the union was doing anything with that. So that's an example of it just happened, right? Now, um, there was no inspired action, nothing on my part. I didn't have to do a thing, okay? Now, compare that to, I told you the story about when I was laid off before I had this fantastic job that I have. And I was imagining myself once again being on the New York City commuter bus, right? I had been a New York City commuter. A lot of us got laid off. I was laid off a few months. It was rough. My unemployment was about to run out. So going through the interviews and being lowballed on salary, and it just wasn't looking good. But I had faith, and I kind of focused on being on that commuter bus again. Just being on the commuter bus. Now, I told you the opportunity came out of nowhere in a way. My ex-boss, a director, contacted me. You still looking for work? Yes, I'm still looking for work. My unemployment's about to run out. Okay, remember this guy? He came into our office a few times, gave a talk on certain things. He's with this other outfit. They're looking for people, this new big project, software project. Email him. I did. So now that took inspired action on my part. The thing kind of came out of nowhere just from me wanting to be on that bus. But I still had to, email the guy, have an interview set up, prepare for the interview, get dressed up, go into New York City, not knowing if it was going to work out, right? Now, this was before I was actively manifesting stuff, but I know now, looking back, I was actually doing it. And then having to go through an interview, and I already told you how it magically happened after that. So the whole thing was kind of effortless, but at the same time, I had to take inspired action. So my point here in contrasting these two things is sometimes it comes into your life, boom, out of nowhere, and you don't have to lift a finger. And it happens. It can happen that way. It does happen that way. It's happened to me that way, okay? And sometimes it comes in, but you have to take inspired action based on the circumstances in order to to reach that final fulfillment, right? Sometimes you have to do something, but you will be led to do it and it will be natural, okay? I've been on interviews where it was a disaster and it fell through. Was effortless, and I see how where I work now interviews people, and they have to go through multiple interviews to get something, and they have to be grilled by multiple team members. I didn't have any of that. It was effortless. If I had to go through that today where I work now, I wouldn't get it. So don't tell me that this doesn't work, and don't tell me that it happens the same way every time, or that it's got to happen this way or it's got to happen that way. BS, okay? It it happens a myriad of ways. So everybody's right and everybody's wrong at the same time. All right? Don't fall for these rules that people set up. That's their rules. It's not your rules. There are no rules. Okay? And all it really requires is focusing on some aspect of that end result. And my end result with my job wasn't even, it had nothing to do with the job itself. It was the mere act of, once again, being on that commuter bus going into New York City. Nothing about the job itself. Nothing. Of course, I knew what line of work I was in, but it had nothing to do with, I didn't even know about the place where I work now. I didn't even know about them. I didn't even know they had an IT organization. I mean, everybody does now, I guess, but I didn't know any details about them. And it's a public entity. I wouldn't even think of getting into a public entity, right? And for me, it started as a consultant, and later on, they hired us. I started as a consultant, so I had my foot in the door, and then we got hired on. So and I've had steady. It was effortless, but I did have to take inspired action to get that job, right? But then look at certain raises or union things or whatever, they happen effortlessly. And other things happen effortlessly too. You can win contests. Miracles can and do happen. Crazy coincidences and good fortune can and do happen, right? Especially if you believe in the possibility of them. If you're going to walk around all day saying this doesn't happen and the odds are whatever, the odds of winning the lottery are 8,450,000,000,000 to 1, then that's going to be your experience. That's going to be your experience. That's most people's experience. The odds are like that because most people can't ever imagine actually winning, right? Now, I'm not speaking as a lottery winner. I'm just saying that's the way these things are, okay? So, believe in miracles, believe in crazy, fortuitous coincidences. They can and do happen. You can make them happen. Just be open to them. And the end result. Like I said, don't worry about, just the end result. And it could be an aspect of an end result. It could just be an aspect, some weird tangent aspect, right? For me, being on the bus. Just being on the bus. Had nothing to do with the job, right? So I hope this can assist and help and kind of crack this nut open a little bit more for some of you who might be having trouble with the whole thing. I was just like you once. It gets easier with time, with some practice, visualization, opening up your mind to the possibilities. You can get there. Just keep at it, but know when to let it go at the same time. Know when to let that desire go, and it will happen.